All right, we are live on the playoff edition, super wild card playoff edition of the Halftime Hits brought to you by Broadway Sports. You can find us at Broadway TN and at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. As always, I am Jonathan. I'm joined by Justin Graver, or at Titans Film Room, as he's probably more widely known. You can see me at JB on Broad. And obviously, playoffs intense. Titans got off to a really hot start on the offensive side. Things were moving. Ravens kind of hit back, and ultimately, Justin, what are your thoughts on the first half? What's your key takeaway? Let's start on the offensive side.
Offense looks well, the Ravens defense is tough and they're clearly keying on Derrick Henry. The Titans last time they played these two teams, the Titans offense passing game struggled in the first half. It's pretty dependent on guys like AJ Brown and or Corey Davis and these tight ends winning a one-on-one matchup and making a contested catch. You're not seeing a whole lot of open plays. There were a couple really nice third down designs to get Anthony Ferguson open over the middle, taking advantage of those man-to-man defenses, but overall, I mean, Derrick Henry is going to have to start getting going here for the Titans offense to really open up, or else Tannehill's going to have to be able to make these plays. He's under pressure right away. That D line is a bad matchup for the Titans with Quisenberry in at left tackle.
Look, I mean, the good news is that the Titans tied. Not a bad place to be for what you want to do offensively as the Titans. Everything is still alive. You're not having to focus on the pass game, focus on the run game. Everything is still in play. We talked about it before the game that you watched the games yesterday, and this was something that the refs were letting the players play. And I talked about how I was curious if the Ravens DBs were going to come in here and try and be physical with the wide receivers. And I think you are seeing that now. AJ Brown, he also can win some of those things because of his just physical nature. He's a freak, and we saw that on the touchdown play. But I do think the Ravens are getting physical at the line, and they're kind of mugging these receivers. So I think that from the second half adjustments, need to see a little bit more of getting guys like Cam Batson involved with some speed. He's been open a couple of times. Tannehill has obviously given his guys, his 1,000-yard receivers, I'm giving Corey Davis a little bit of credit there, given his guys opportunities to go make plays. But I think they got to stick with those guys like Ferkser. Is this a game where you can get Darrington Evans involved in the pass game? Yes, the Ravens are king on the run game. And look, yes, it's only 18 yards, but I don't think Derrick Henry has necessarily run poorly. Things are going to start opening up. I think you got to stay committed to it, but I think you also got to throw in some wrinkles on first down because the Ravens are definitely keying on that. Now, they had opportunities to get in, take a big lead with make it a multi-score lead. They didn't take advantage of that on offense. The Ravens have really settled in on defense. So the second half, obviously it's a tie game. It's 0-0 going to the second half of a playoff game. You can't complain too much.
Yeah, the only thing to watch is that obviously the Ravens will start the second half with ball now because Tennessee started the game, and it would have been nice to get a touchdown there at the end of the half, but instead Tannehill throws a screen pass, it gets batted in the air, and the Titans and screen passes have just been a disaster all season. But Tannehill's got to react better in that moment, and I know it's just like totally instinctual. The ball's in the air, go get it, don't let the other team get it, but he's got to knock that down because that really cost the Titans big. They're lucky that they were able to get a stop on the other side, and that's something we haven't talked about yet. Is this defense? What defense is this? Is this the Titans defense? They have 4 sacks in the first half. What?
Yeah,
That's as many as they had the past 4 weeks.
we talk about matchup football. We all talk like, look, this defense is still a bad defense, and they make their appearances from time to time, as we saw in the long Lamar Jackson run. But it's matchup football. The Titans match up with what the Ravens do very well. That's assignment football. Know what your job is and go do it. When in the run game, the Titans are very good at that assignment football. The pass game, not so much, as we've seen, and a lot of other teams, those matchups get exposed. But against this team, the Titans do match up really well. The guys like Rashaan Evans, David Longs, those guys that play at 100. Well, David Long plays at 100 miles an hour. Rashaan Evans, you'd like to, and he gets to do it a little bit more against this team because there's not as much going on. So as far as defense, yeah, you cannot complain. 4 sacks, you've got an interception. If the Titans lose this game, you can't say that it was because the defense let them down.
Right, which I think is what everyone would have said would be the reason heading into the day is, well, if we lose, it's because the defense sucks. But I want to comment on this comment that's here. The defense is playing well. The offense just needs to turn up. That is the same story we were facing halftime last week, right? The defense was playing pretty well. The offense was struggling a little bit. I mean, Derrick Henry had a 52-yard touchdown run, but outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot of offense in the first half last week. So maybe we'll see something similar where offense explodes and so does the other teams. I think that we could see an eruption of points here in the second half as these teams go in and are able to make halftime adjustments, because even though these two teams are so familiar and they should know how the other team's going to play, like, because they're so familiar, there was definitely a little bit of mystery in how these teams would, like, what would they change coming out for this game to attack each other. So I think now that both teams have seen that, we may see some adjustments at halftime that open things up. And for the Titans defense, they just got to make tackles. I mean, they've been in position. All the Ravens' big plays, like either Lamar Jackson was almost taken down in the backfield, or he just like his touchdown run just squirted through. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, obviously, this is a hard team to tackle with a lot of playmakers, just like the Titans have. But if you just play discipline and make those tackles, it could be a different ball game.
Yeah, and look, it's a fascinating thing from the coaching perspective. I see a comment there that Art Smith was outcoached in the second quarter, and you could say that, but he also outcoached Wink Martindale to start off the game. So we go to halftime here. It's that's where Art tends to make his adjustments. You know, I've talked about it. That's where I think that as he matures as an offensive coordinator, his adjustments in game could improve. But at halftime, that's when he usually can take a breath, make those adjustments for the team, and the Titans come out firing in a lot of cases. And that's where Derrick Henry is still very much alive in what they do. So I would expect them, if they can still get a couple more key stops. But this is, look, we talk about regardless who wins this game, Wink Martindale and Art Smith are right there in the coaching interviews for these head coaching jobs. Well, Art Smith put on a show in the first quarter. Wink Martindale adjusted in the second quarter. This second half is really going to be a telltale sign about who kind of gets that upper hand coming out of here, because both have everything alive for what they want to do offensive and defensively.
So one place I think we could see the Titans adjust is the Ravens are bringing pressure a lot, especially on third downs and passing downs, and the Titans are Tannehill has done this twice on third down where he just kind of floats it up for his guy, and one time it worked out great. A.J. Brown caught a pass that probably should have been flagged for pass interference, as Humphrey was like stiff-arming his face mask while A.J. was making the catch. But this first time they tried it, it wasn't really great, and it was a physical route then too, maybe a little bit of illegal contact, but nothing that they're flagging. So I want to see a little bit more of those quick designed throws that allow players like Jonnu Smith to get out and get in space. And Jonnu had 2 catches in the first half, and one of them, it looked like he was going to do a classic Jonnu Smith and like break a tackle and potentially rumble for a big game, and he just slipped. So more chances like that for those guys. And Corey Davis only has 1 target that was not even catchable, so I want to see him get involved some more too. Let's get these receivers involved to back the defense up and allow Henry to have more room.
Well, I remember the first matchup. That's where Corey Davis really kind of took over in that second half. A.J. Brown obviously had the big play where he drugged defenders into the end zone in a crucial play, but Corey Davis was the one catching those deep out routes. And that's where the Titans came out and attacked again. They kind of replicated that. Mike Miracles on Twitter was talking about that before the game, where for a team that likes to attack over the middle of the field with deep crossers, they adjusted against Baltimore. Well, now we kind of flip back. So now does Baltimore stick with that, thinking that the Titans would like to go back to those deep crossers? That's their bread and butter. Or do they stick with those out routes because that's a more difficult throw to make? Tannehill obviously can make it. But this is where I do think that the Baltimore corners, the way they can be physical, the way they can come up and attack, that is going to give the Titans some trouble, and they're going to have to find a counter to that. And that's where I think a guy like a Darrington Evans, a guy like a Cam Batson, and even a Khalif Raymond, who had a big game last year, could make an impact on this game. I'd look for them to take some shots there. Can the offensive line hold up? That's the problem, because, look, the screen was called at the perfect time. It was set up. There was something there with Jonnu Smith if the ball can get there, but this team has found a way to ineffectively run screens every single week. And, yeah, I see a comment coming right now. Stop trying to run screens. The reason is, yes, they cannot run the screens because teams are reading it. They're expecting it, but the plays are blocked well. Tannehill has to be okay taking a pump fake, throwing it underneath. You see a Matthew Stafford or a Pat Mahomes adjust their throwing angle to get that ball there. That's something that Tannehill needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And it's weird because we haven't seen, like, the only misdirection that we've seen in this game so far has been play action and Tannehill either booting off of it or just giving it to Henry. But we haven't seen, that, like, guy coming across the formation before the snap that like brings a linebacker over, or like flip it up to Cam Batson or Khalif Raymond. Like, I think we need to start seeing some misdirection there, because these linebackers, I mean, even without play action on one of those throws to Jonnu Smith early in the game, like as soon as Tannehill gets a snap, the Ravens linebackers are stepping forward. They are expecting run almost every single non-third down play. So I think taking advantage again of those matchups and getting those linebackers' eyes going different directions with like you said, get Cam Batson involved. I think that could be huge for the offense.
Yeah, one thing I'd love to see would kind of some sort of leak concept or these deep crossing routes. And yeah, I see the joke about the toss plays. I'm not even touching that one. I'd love to see some of these deep crossing routes in the secondary. Put these safeties in a bind. Now you got to be able to protect a little bit, but those leak routes from not necessarily the AJ Browns and Corey Davises, but can you get it to those guys? Can you sneak them out the backside with some of this play action? I think that sets up for a big play. We haven't seen it in quite a while where they run that play action to one side and leak out a tight end or one of their players to the other side. That would be the way to go, in my opinion. What's your prediction for the second half?
I think the Titans offense busts open, but so does the Ravens, and we have a shootout. Last team with the ball wins.
Perfect. I think that unfortunately, I think the Ravens maybe pull this out, but it's going to be a close game. We'll talk to you in the second half. As always, you can check out our material at Broadway TN or BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Appreciate it, and we'll see you on the postgame show.
Bye, everyone.